He wasn't considered. He wasn't even called inside the house. While strong men stood tall, confident, and ready to be chosen, a young shepherd was left alone in the fields, watching sheep, unaware that heaven was about to change his life forever. This is the story of David. Before the crown, before the throne, before the victories. And why being overlooked may be the very place where God prepares you for greatness. In the house of Jesse, the atmosphere was heavy with expectation. The prophet Samuel had arrived with a purpose sent directly from God. Israel's first king had failed, and now the Lord was searching for another, one who would lead with obedience, humility, and faith. One by one, Jesse presented his sons before the prophet. They were strong, impressive, battle-ready, men who looked like kings in every way the world understands power. Samuel studied each face carefully. At first glance, even he was tempted. But God spoke clearly and corrected him. Do not look at appearance. Do not measure height or strength. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And yet, son after son passed by. None were chosen. Confused, Samuel turned to Jesse and asked a question that changed everything. Are these all your sons? Jesse hesitated. There is still the youngest, he said, but he is tending the sheep, the youngest, the forgotten one, the one not worth calling inside. So they sent for him. And when David entered the room, dusty from the fields, carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had learned to stand alone, the Lord spoke again. Rise and anoint him. This is the one. In front of his brothers, in front of his father, in a moment no one expected. Samuel poured the oil over David's head, and from that day forward, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. David did not become king that day. He did not receive a crown. He did not step into a palace. He returned to the fields. And that is where many people lose patience, because we assume that once God chooses us, everything should change immediately. But David's story teaches us something different. Sometimes God anoints you in private and trains you in silence. Back among the sheep, David continued his work. But those quiet days were far from meaningless. In the fields, David learned responsibility. He learned courage. He learned how to protect what was entrusted to him, even when no one was watching. When danger came, he did not run. When threats appeared, he stood firm. Not because he was fearless, but because he trusted God. In isolation, David developed a heart of worship. He sang. He prayed. He reflected. He built a relationship with God that would later sustain him through rejection, betrayal, and fear. This is the part of the story many people overlook. Before public victory comes private preparation. Before elevation comes obscurity. Before purpose is revealed, character is formed. And while David grew quietly in the fields, trouble was growing loudly in the palace. King Saul, once chosen by God, had become tormented in spirit. Peace had left him. Fear and anger filled the throne room. Those around him searched desperately for a solution. Someone spoke up. There is a young man, they said. A shepherd. He plays music skillfully. And when he plays, peace follows. And just like that, the shepherd was summoned to the palace. David entered a world completely opposite from the fields. Stone walls, guards, royal authority, a king burdened by unrest. David played. And as the music filled the room, calm returned. The same hands that protected sheep now brought peace to a king. But something dangerous was quietly forming. Because when God's anointed stands near insecure power, tension is inevitable. David served faithfully. He respected Saul. He remained humble. But the very presence that brought peace also reminded Saul of what he had lost. Favor had shifted, and jealousy began to grow. David had done nothing wrong, yet suspicion followed him. This is where David's story becomes deeply personal for many of us. Have you ever done your best, served faithfully, remained humble, and still found yourself misunderstood or targeted? David's life teaches us that obedience does not always protect us from opposition. Sometimes it attracts it. As Saul's jealousy intensified, David's life was placed in danger. The palace that once welcomed him became a place of fear. Whispers turned into threats. Safety disappeared, and David ran. From palace halls to dark caves, from royal service to wilderness survival. Yet even in hiding, God was working. Men who were broken, rejected, and forgotten gathered around David. And instead of becoming bitter, David became a leader. Instead of seeking revenge, he chose integrity. Twice, David had the opportunity to destroy Saul. Twice, he refused. He would not force what God had promised. He would not stain his calling with impatience. He trusted God's timing more than his own escape. That is the heart of David. Chosen, but patient. Anointed, but obedient. Destined, but humble. And this is where David's story meets ours. Many people watching right now feel overlooked, passed over, ignored, stuck in a season that feels small, unfair, or silent. But David's life reminds us of a powerful truth. God does his deepest work in hidden seasons. The fields matter. The waiting matters. The silence matters. If you are unseen right now, it does not mean you are unchosen. If your season feels small, it does not mean your purpose is. David was overlooked by his family, but chosen by God. And in time, the crown would come. But first, the heart had to be ready. Many people think preparation looks like training for greatness. But most of the time, preparation looks like repetition. The same hills, the same sheep, the same long days and quiet nights. David woke up each morning not knowing when his life would change, only trusting that God was still with him. There were no crowds applauding him, no one celebrating his faithfulness, no recognition for doing the right thing day after day. And yet, this is where David's strength was built. In the stillness of the fields, David learned how to listen. He learned how to be patient. He learned how to wait without complaining. When fear crept in, he prayed. When loneliness settled in, he worshipped. When doubt tried to whisper, he remembered who God was. This season shaped David more than any battlefield ever would. Because before God places you in front of people, he watches how you stand when no one is watching. Before God trusts you with influence, he tests your integrity in isolation. And this is where many people struggle today. We live in a world that celebrates visibility, speed, and recognition. We want instant results, instant answers, instant success. But David's story reminds us that God often moves in the opposite direction. God slows us down. God hides us. God develops us quietly, not to punish us, but to prepare us. Every moment David spent alone was shaping his courage. Every unseen victory over fear was strengthening his faith. Every song he sang to God in the fields was building a relationship that would later carry him through betrayal, danger, and delay. If David had skipped this season, he would not have survived what came next. And neither would we.